Donald Trump, remember, this is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. So he was not convicted of a crime. He was held civilly liable for sexual assault and for defamation. He was found not liable for rape. And it is unclear why the jury decided that way. She had claimed that, and under New York state law, penetration of a vagina by a penis constitutes rape, unconsented in that instance. She made that claim.
Yes. But
apparently she could only substantiate that he was sexually assaulting her. But he is held liable. I think the verdict was $5 million.
It was $2 million around for the sexual abuse, and then the rest, close to $3 million, was for the defamation element.
So he's not going to jail. He's not a criminal in that saying he was civilly found liable. There's a lower standard than there would be for criminal, and the reason why he was able to do that in terms of the civil liability and not subject to the statute of limitations, which it would be under a criminal code, was because the New York State legislature rolled back in 2022 these type of claims. If you recall, about, 4 or 5 years ago, I was in Vegas for the tort conference, and it interviewed I cannot remember her name. Her name escapes me. I think she was a former gymnast who had led the charge to get the rollback of the statute of limitations in terms of sexual molestation of minors. This followed, those claims, because there was a lot more hostility to reporting these things. There's still a tremendous amount of hostility to reporting these things, in the past decades. And under this sort of like cultural shift that we have, again, not a huge one, but one, New York revisited this and said old claims can be pursued. And that's what happened here. And that was added to the defamation case. Yeah.
And we should say, the Me Too movement in many ways was sparked by the Access Hollywood tape, which was used it was one of the impetuses for the Me Too explosion in 2016. Harvey Weinstein also found guilty. Trump now found liable. There's a lot of kind of chickens coming home to roost in the 6-7 years since we kind of had some of this reckoning, or 5 years. I can't do math.
I totally agree with you. I think the frustration that our society felt that someone who had been accused by 20 women of sexual assault in one form or another, or somebody who had been accused in his divorce papers of raping essentially his wife, of somebody who was caught on tape. The idea that he would be able to simply, glide through this and become president, I think created a lot of the impetus for the Me Too movement. I think you're right about that. But here is the, and we're going to see a lot of fallout from this. Obviously, he's doing a town hall at CNN tonight, and
hosted by former Daily Caller White House correspondent Caitlin Collins. She's really rising up the ranks in CNN's pivot to the right.
And CNN they're gonna love this. They're saying that there's supposedly some squeamishness. They're gonna love this.
We're so uneasy by how much attention this is gonna garner.
Exactly. Yes, people are gonna tune in to see how he skates by this. He's claiming that he doesn't even know who she is.
Yeah,
he's never even met her.
Which is amazing because, again, the video from his deposition his deposition showed him confusing his ex-wife Marla Maples for E. Jean Carroll.
Right.
We're talking about Biden's mental fitness. The guy's old, but Trump's a lunatic.
But CNN is going to be happy about being associated. But it appears, I would imagine, that the Republicans who will be on the ticket with Donald Trump probably not going to be so excited. Igor Bobek at HuffPo asked some senators their responses, and it's on Twitter. Here they are. Here is Republican Senator Mike Rounds. Quote, "You never like to hear a former president has been found in civil court guilty of those type of actions."
I think you'd never hear that a president did those type of actions.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
But
you
it's
never liked to.
unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, he could have showed more discipline. Again, we were joking about this before the show. It sounds like something a basketball coach would say when like they've had a bad quarter.
Asked if he could support someone found liable of battery. Round said, well, I would have a difficult time doing so. Mark this, you bookmark that,
Right.
and we'll see how many weeks it takes him to reverse himself. He heaped praise on Tim Scott. And maybe this is Tim Scott's opportunity to become vice president. That's what he's running for. And maybe that'll. Well, yes, the head of the ticket is was found liable of sexual assault. But Tim Scott.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Tim Scott.
Sure.
Tim Scott's running for president, but as Sam says, that's not it.
Senator Kennedy, according to Bobek, declined to comment when asking about the jury finding Trump liable of sexual battery. Quote, I don't have anything for you on that. Because maybe he hasn't heard about it. That's possible. Do you want to take Cramer?
Cramer said he sees no reason to doubt the jury, but he won't rule out supporting Trump if it's him versus Biden. Quote, obviously, I'd rather have a president that isn't found liable for battery, he said. It's not a disqualifier, but it's certainly not a check in the plus column.
Yeah,
I mean,
That's a neutral.
Some North Dakota honesty there.
Yeah, it's neutral, but I wouldn't say it's negative.
yeah, you know, it's about balancing pluses and minuses.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? Youthful indiscretion when he was in his 40s or 50s. Cassidy on Trump's sexual battery verdict. Of course, it creates concern. How could it not create concern?
All this concern being created right before our eyes.
If what the woman says, and now he realizes, like, he can't make this about, like, whether she's credible or not because the jury just found it. Well, if he's found liable, well, he has been, Chief. How could it be anything but create concern?
What is this create concern benchmark?
Everyone's so much concern being created in the universe. This one was one of my personal favorites, Rick Scott. Here.
Wait, let's just stay on Cassie for 1 second, because the best part of this is, hypothetically, it could create concern.
Yes.
Well, what about now that it's happened? If what you're saying is true, if your hypothetical is true,
adding that soap to water could create a lot of bubbles.
Well, but the soap is in the water.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, that's that's what happens if the soap hits the water.
You're using the soap to cover up your private parts. Like,
Rick Scott.
Rick Scott here. He said he didn't do it, but actually I don't know the facts of the case. I don't know the lady or anything. Asked if he could support someone found liable of sexual battery. He said, I don't know the facts. It's a New York jury too, which is like
racism.
Racism, exactly.
Yeah.
Or, anti-Semitism. Take your pick. I don't really know. But just go back for a second to the Rick Scott thing here, because when he says it's a New York jury too, and he doesn't know the facts, yes, they didn't find him liable for rape, but they deliberated for 3 hours. For people that follow these kinds of cases, that's a short period of time. It did not take long for them to find him liable of the other two things, the defamation and the sexual abuse.
I wonder how many victims Rick Scott knows, so that he can weigh in on a case. Steve Daines, who just endorsed Trump, reacts to the New York verdict. Sounds like President Trump's legal team will be appealing this decision.
Sounds like it.
Rubio says the jury is a joke. The whole case is a joke. There's Marco Rubio.
Wasn't he the more moderate wonderkind for the Republican Party?
Yeah.
Interesting. Also interesting, given the state that he's from, by the way, because DeSantis still has not officially run, and he's coming out hard in favor of Trump here.
Igor Bobek, Romney, the jury reached their decision, and I hope the jury of American people reached the same conclusion. We need a different nominee for the nominee of president. He has no position to be the president of the United States. That's the strongest, and that's still a little bit mealy mouth. Like, that's the guy who is irredeemable in Trump's eyes anyways.
Yeah. And Tuberville might be the number one reaction.
Yes, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Tommy Tuberville says the New York verdict, this is the one in which Donald Trump was found liable for sexual assault and defamation, makes me want to vote for him twice. It's literally like a Letterman bit. Top 10 reasons to vote for Donald Trump. Well, Tommy Tuberville says number one, liable for sexual assault.
I mean, there's
Imagine, like, Tommy Tuberville had a position of authority at a university.
yes, he was a
God knows what
head
went on with
football
that
coach.
football team.
Like, I mean, that's a very dark statement to make.
Maybe him
Very
and
dark.
Jim Jordan can trade stories.